Good afternoon, everybody. Time is now 4:30. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call: Tina here, Joanne here, Danielle
Here.
Nicole
Here.
Victor.
Here.
Please stand and join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve today's agenda. Seeking a second.
I'll second.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Moving on to number 5, you all had the opportunity to get your questions answered regarding the consent items. I'll make a motion to approve today's consent items. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I'm doing the electronic minutes, so I'm a little slow. Sorry. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. That brings it to you, Carrie.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just have to. All right, here we go.
Oh, I thought you were gonna put it on a slide.
Oh, you know what?
The
You're
full slide
absolutely
screen,
right.
Sorry.
Yep, they use feedback for me. I am terribly sorry. Okay,
Okay.
it's my first day.
So, really wanted to have a chance to talk to you all about the work that we're doing with the WIMLSS. I will stumble through that multiple times. It's really hard to say. Just to start out, the framework is something that the state of Wisconsin, the DPI, has put a lot of grant money towards, and so the CISAs around the state are offering ongoing coaching and support, and so we are working with CISA 2 right now. A couple of their consultants there are walking us through this process. Can we go ahead and go to the next one? So what is WIMLSS? You've heard me talk about it before, you've heard Kathleen Dopich talk about it before, but really it is this framework of multi-level systems of supports, and it's meant to serve all of our students equitably. When we've talked about it in the past, it's mainly been focused on the academic side. With our work with CISA 2 and DPI, we're focusing on expanding it to also include the behavioral side, so that it really is about the whole child, essentially. And so looking at what are the different structures and systems that we have in place to help students get their needs met wherever they are in the system. So core features of an MLSS or Wisconsin MLSS, first and foremost, that universal instruction is core, right? That's where we hope to meet the needs of 80 to 90% of our students. So that means all students, and that means also not just all students in aggregate, but all students in different subgroups. So, if our students who are, who have IEPs are achieving at different rates than our students that don't have IEPs, that indicates some kind of gap, and so we need to look at our system and make sure that our system is meeting the needs of all of our students more equitably. I don't know that we're ever going to have a perfect system where everybody is always at that high achievement, but the goal is to close those gaps. The other piece of this is that we use data very strategically, and so we're looking at the data to review those gaps, refining our practices for continuous improvement. And then finally, another big part, which is part of the reason why I'm here in front of you today, is shared ownership. One, it's shared ownership for the entire staff, but it is shared ownership too with all of you, the Board of Education, as well as our community, our families, and the students, of having as much engagement and voice in this process, and not just voice contributing, but also hearing the voices of those that are doing the work. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So like I said, it's a commitment for rigor for all students. So every child has access to all the resources that they need, the rigor for them, just in time for what they need. So this cuts across all, race, gender, ethnicity, language, ability, family background, so that all of our students are having equitable outcomes. So one example that I can give is, while we do have a little bit of a gap, our students who are multi-language learners, they are underperforming the students who are English proficient. But the gap, I'm doing this because in my head I'm seeing the graph, the gap over time is getting smaller. And so that's what we really want to see, is that, okay, our system is working for our language learners, our English language learners, because that gap is getting smaller, and that's really exciting. So when CESA 2 came in last week, they talked to us a little bit about system change, because looking at a system, there's a lot of different moving parts, and they talked a lot about the technical challenges versus adaptive challenges. So technical challenges aren't necessarily easy to fix, but they're more like, okay, if I just do this, I'm able to solve the problem. It's very much like I put the plan in place, and it works. Adaptive challenge is that you have so many different variables that, depending on what the variable is, how you approach it is a little bit different. And that is really what we're dealing with in the school system. We can't control how the kids come to us each morning. So we have to be able to adapt in that moment and really think on our toes of how to address all of the different needs. We can't control whether or not a family has what they need to buy school supplies. We can't, so there's just so many factors that we have to be able to, again, adapt and make adjustments as we're going. And so I like the quote that's on here: the biggest failure of leadership is to treat adaptive challenges like technical problems. This is a challenge always in many fields, but education in particular, where people are like, well, if you just do this, it'll fix all the things. But if it were easy, right, we would all be seeing a lot more success in schools than we are kind of globally. And so really looking at it and being mindful that this is a lot of hard work in making these adaptive changes, and really excited about some of the changes that you all have allowed us to make to be able to support our school and our staff in making some of the changes. So last week we met with CESA 2, and we kind of mapped out our current reality. So we took some time to look at behavioral data, we looked at forward data, we looked at our literacy data, and we identified areas where we're doing well and areas where we need to grow a little bit. So strong academic performance and PLC structures. You guys know this. I've come in and talked a lot about how we've been successful with our school report card, continuing to grow in those areas, and that PLC work has been something we've been doing for the last few years, and that's really paid off. And again, that's really on that academic side. We've also been using data a lot more in literacy, primarily because of Act 20 has really helped with that focus in there, but across the board in all of our content areas. One other piece is that supportive human resources at the universal level. So this is one of the things that is a little bit of a shift for next year with our coaching roles. Okay, when we have these adaptive challenges, very complex, just saying, oh, hey, you need to change this, versus, hey, you need to change this, and I'm going to help you problem solve and think through some different ways to do it. That's really where those coaching roles are going to come in and be really instrumental in helping our system move forward. And so we're really excited about having those positions in play, because it's hard work and it can't be done alone.
When you say coaching, do you mean coaching our educators or coaching kids?
Coaching our educators.
Okay, just
yes.
okay.
Yep. Yeah, and it's really interesting, because each year you get a completely different group of kids, and how you have to be as an educator from one year to the next is totally different. And so having somebody that you can go to and just problem solve with and think about and plan and map, it's so critical in this work. So again, I think we're really excited about having those roles in place. And then we also have differentiated high-quality instruction. Again, we've gone through a few curriculum adoptions in the last couple of years and got a really solid bunch of core curriculum that has made a big impact. And we're going to continue to do some curriculum adoptions to improve that across in our other content areas. Some of our growth opportunities are addressing behavior system outcomes, particularly for boys. So I don't have all the nitty-gritty data. If you want to see it, I definitely can share it with you. But we looked at specifically grades 5 through 8 that we tend to have, and that's where more of the behaviors come up, is in the upper grades. But when we looked at it and we disaggregated data, we saw that our boys were significantly higher in getting office disciplinary referrals. So that's something that our system is not equitably handling with that. Also, our students with IEPs have a higher percentage of getting an office disciplinary referral than those who don't have an IEP. So that's something that our system has to address as well. And then something that we also want to look at is consistency in our data rules across the continuum. So that's a really fancy way of saying, what does it mean to get a tier 2 support, and what does it mean to get a tier 3 support? And that means both in academics and in behavior. We have a really strong foundation in academics. We definitely need to continue to refine that system. It's not perfect and continue to grow, but also on the behavioral side of things, really shoring up and cleaning up, like, okay, if a student is not getting their needs met with that universal level of support, what does that tier 2 support look like, and what will allow them to move back into that universal level support and not need those additional services. Okay. So one of the things that, like I mentioned, we found was that we did have an achievement gap, and there are a couple of areas that we wanted to look at, but as any system, you don't want to do too many things at once, and so this made sense for us to really look at our ELA, particularly with our work that we've been doing with Act 20, and our students with and without IEPs. So you can see we have 68.7% of our students without IEPs are proficient advanced, whereas only 25.5% of our students with IEPs are proficient advanced in ELA. So our system is clearly not meeting the needs of our students with IEPs. We also did, like I said, we looked at the behavior snapshot, and so before I kind of talked about, well, and you'll see it probably in an upcoming slide, but our system is intended to meet the needs of 80 to 90% of students without having to give additional supports. So this is actually really nice data to see, is that, and typically, if they have 0 to 1 referral within a school year, that means really that the system is working for them. So we have 88% of our students overall, the system is working. So that's really good news to us, is that yes, yay, the system, we have things under control. We just have a handful of kids that need those tier 2 and tier 3 supports. So again, in tier 2 supports needed, that was 8.5% and 3.4% in trimester 3. We have students, only 55% of our students have regular attendance. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, fascinating. This has been a really interesting shift from since COVID. A lot of families are taking more and more time off. And so this is something that we really wanted to dig into.
During the school year.
During the school year, yes, yes. So, and this is something that does impact our overall report card score, and so it's something that we really need to be looking at. And this data is specifically grades 5 through 8. So, like, it's better in the earlier grades, full transparency, but at this particular grade level, we've noticed some challenges with attendance. So that's, again, just helping families understand the importance of, like, even missing 2 days a month, you're already at 10 or more days.
Yeah.
So.
I don't need the number now, but maybe I'm just curious if you two have if in groups you've discussed that number, open enrollee students versus in-district students, because often transportation, et cetera, is an issue. So you all have broken that 45% and looked at that? If not, I'd be curious, because oftentimes with that transportation becomes an
we
issue.
haven't gone that deeply into it, so this data we literally compiled and like discussed kind of last week. So we haven't had gone too much into detail with it,
Okay.
but that's a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
It was broken down by like, you know, economic status, race, gender, IEP status, and those were pretty consistent across the
Okay.
board.
Thanks.
So, but we did not look at it based on open enrollment status.
Okay.
Good thing to look at. But then again, too, like I mentioned, with the equity gap, students with IEPs have a significant representation in these discipline referrals, so it's something that we're going to have to look at. All right, so like I mentioned, so the system really is intended to meet 80 to 90% of our students' needs with that universal level. And then if they're not being successful at that universal level, then we have to start offering them some tier 2 services. And if those tier 2 services aren't working, then we have to go into this tier 3 intensive services. One of the things that we really have to be mindful when I say we, me as well, but educators, anybody who's talking about this stuff, is that we're not labeling kids as tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 kids. We are providing kids with services. Because once we start labeling kids, then it kind of is like it becomes a label. And also the idea is that we want to pull back from providing these services. We no longer want a student who's receiving tier 3, we want them to then just get down to tier 2 and then down to tier 1 and so forth. So same thing again, that it's not an uncommon practice for people, educators specifically, to use that language, and it's going to be a hard shift to make of just changing that language and that mindset. The last part, really, like that I mentioned earlier too, is just having that shared ownership and stakeholder voice. And so that first check mark there is an invitation to all of you. We would like to invite the board to our beginning of year training. We don't have the specific date and time, but to be a part of the conversation with the teachers, again, so that you can contribute and have your voices heard, but then also hear the staff members talking about this. Because again, the more that we are on the same page with things, the better we are able to move forward and really work towards our common goals. With the end result then of having shared responsibility for all of our student outcomes. Also a goal of having transparency in the decision-making process, making sure that everyone is well informed you know, along the way, and if there's questions, we can bring them up early on so that it's not an issue at the 11th hour. And then again, empowering all voices with systemic refinement. So there's actually a bullet point, I guess, missing from this. But that there was a group of us that did an initial data inquiry last week, and then we did an initial framework training in Whitewater. But then August 2026 then is when we're going to do that initial training with full staff, and hopefully those of you who can make it at our welcome back session. And then September through October, really looking at defining and clarifying universal strategies. One of the things that is common when we're talking about MLSS is sometimes we focus too much on tier 2 and tier 3 supports without really evaluating the universal level first. And so we want to have clarity as a team, as a system. What are our key indicators of success for universal? So if I walk into an elementary literacy classroom, I really should expect to see this, 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 and this. If I walk into a middle school math classroom, I really should see this, 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 and this. And we can gather data as a team and really look at that and have some really good conversations about that universal level. We have lots of really good data on our tier 2 and tier 3, but we don't have a lot of good data on our tier 1. So that's one thing that we're going to be looking at. Ongoing, continually using our PLCs for those teams to look at data. And then trimestrally, that's the goal, is to update all of you guys regarding the progress with this work. No? Doesn't want to go? Do you guys have any questions?
You mentioned data several times, Carrie.
Yes.
How many data points are you taking? Because you can't measure them all effectively. You've got to, like you said before, concentrate on a couple and measure them accurately. What are you guys thinking initially to kind of do that?
So that's a really good question, and it has a kind of complex answer. It really depends on who's looking at the data and
Right.
what their purpose is. So there's different levels of decision making and using the data. So we have an overarching team that is kind of spearheading this work and guiding this work. And so the data that we're using to help us know kind of big picture are really those big assessments, right? The forward assessments, the Act 20 Ames Web assessments. That's really going to be our key indicator that we're looking at. And then as far as behaviors, it's really our our attendance and our office disciplinary referrals. Those are the key pieces of data that we know that we're having, we're making progress toward the goals. But then I don't expect like classroom teachers to be looking at that regularly and digging into that, right? We also need to be able to have some kind of measures to see if we're on the right track. And really the best measures are classroom level data. And so teachers using their regular assessments and just kind of seeing, okay, a bunch of our kids are making the progress we're expecting, it kind of falls in line that way. So there's different levels of data, but at the end of the day, it's really the big overarching test scores. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. To be developed still, I'm sure, and refined, but
Yeah, well, and there's just a lot of pieces of data that we do look at, and I could go on and on and on. And then Michelle, we talked about how oftentimes data is seen as kind of a scary word, especially for educators and sometimes parents, right? Because it makes it feel like my child is a number or a score. And really, when I see data, there's two kinds of data, right? There's that big overarching summative data, and then there's basically data which we call student evidence, student progress and learning. And that can be gathered really informally and quickly. Just, I observed and all of these 6 kids are right on track of where they need to be and going from there. So lots of different variation.
yeah, I think my concern just hearing about it is the consistency in measurement.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough road to kind of get up and figure it out as you pull this up. But it's interesting work.
Yes, and that again, why it's an adaptive challenge, right?
Right.
Because you have to work on multiple things, right? Assessment literacy at the same time as you're looking at the outcomes of the assessments.
Yeah. And part of the adaptive, I'm sure you're going to talk a little bit more maybe about the boys statistic that you have there versus the girls statistic.
Yes, because it is focusing specifically on 5th through 8th grade. I had a really interesting conversation with a parent just this past week about sometimes we forget as parents, as teachers, that the adolescent brain is not an adult brain and
That's
doesn't
right,
have
yeah.
fully formed executive functioning skills.
I know adults like that.
Particularly, girls' executive functioning skills develop faster
That's
than
right,
boys.
yeah.
And so this is going to require some, relearning and reminding ourselves of, when all of us teachers took these classes in child psychology, we're like, when are we ever going to use that? Well, actually, it does come up, and this is, there's a lot of new research in it too. So there's a lot of learning and some reflecting to do on it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you
No
very
questions.
much.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your work.
Yeah.
Yes, and thank you. All right.
Well, I'll wait for you.
Oh, okay, thanks. Oh, you can, am I gonna do this to you or?
Oh, no, you're fine.
Okay. Number of 4Kers, but moving on, other celebrations.
This is not, all right, sorry.
our friend Waylon, wow, the Bristol community, again, I said it during the 8th grade graduation speech, like Bristol goes big. And I was at a few concerts where they just simply passed around a bucket and said, hey, if you can contribute to our friend Waylon for his, to help his family with the cost of his cancer treatments, please do so. And between just his classmates and community members and passing around those buckets, our school collected over $7,000 for Waylon and his family. So a lot to celebrate there, and such a cute little guy. And we did a big walk around the back parking lot. Like all the kids were out there, and Waylon's little 4K friends had their banners, and his family was there, and his grandparents, and it was a big celebration.
And he's cancer-free right now.
Is he? That's awesome. That's awesome. That's even better. We had 8th grade graduation. Again, great group of kids. I know Carrie talked a little bit about the adolescent challenges of being in 8th grade. It's a tough time, and they're trying to figure out who they are. But overall, a great group of kids. We had 105 8th graders graduate that evening, and we wish them well. And on that note, we had our the seniors that graduated from Westosha came back to Bristol and did a walk through the school, and that was a lot of fun. It was the first year we did it. We're hoping that we can make that an annual, and it was great. They loved seeing some of their teachers, and just it was fun listening to them kind of talk about the memories they had when they were renegades. Okay. Switching gears, strategic planning. So we got our stakeholder feedback report from Danielle, our consultant. We did a community survey, and we had 126 respondents. I also gave her the results of the staff engagement survey that we did in February. We had a 75% response rate on that staff engagement survey, so that's good. And then we had a community planning event on May 18th. And Danielle's report synthesizes the information from those various feedback loops, along with, I had a chance to talk to just a few, not as many as I would have liked, current 5th and 6th graders, catching them in lunch and kind of getting their feedback. So again, just kind of a chance for her to take a look at, as we go into our committee work and really revisit our strategic plan pillars, what are these sources of data telling us? Where should we focus our efforts? Thanks, Tony. So just some of the strengths. Teachers were rated very favorable in the community survey. No surprise there. Overall staff quality was rated very strongly. Student achievement is a source of community pride. Facilities were rated favorably. From the community standpoint, safe, well-maintained schools. And the education quality versus our neighboring districts was rated favorably, 72%. Overall district direction and vision was 66% favorable. And we have positive open enrollment, more students open enrolling into Bristol than open enrolling out. So those are real positive things. I shared the results with our staff engagement survey with you, I think back in April. So again, staff satisfaction with their current role, 85% were satisfied with their current role, and that was up from 74%. Again, that collective teacher efficacy, 80% feel empowered to make a positive difference for students. That's huge. Research shows that is huge. And staff autonomy is stable at 81% across 3 years of surveys. Communication is improving, so we have got ways to go on that, but we're up from the year before, up to 52%. And overall engagement was more positive, recovered to 62% from the year before. Good news in terms of retention, 73% of school department staff see themselves here in 2 years. It was lower in special education, and that is one of our areas that we are going to be setting goals around to improve. And then at our community planning event, there's a lot of pride. There's a lot of pride in the Renegade community. We have many staff members who send their own children to our school. We have a committed staff, and we offer a great variety of exploratory classes. And we have a lot of staff that have been employed here for a long time. There's staff longevity, there's staff commitment. And then updated, well-maintained facilities. We have a healthy fund balance, as you know, after our last finance workshop and going through that. Some people have noted that we have beautiful facilities, so a lot of positive things there. We have student opportunities not offered at other schools. We change when we have, we've got the ability to change and adapt. And again, the fact that it is a PK 8 school in one spot, people saw as a strength. And then just like strengths, there's always room for improvement. So safety, discipline, and behavior management. And again, sometimes we get conflicting information in our data. As Carrie said, in looking at the data, 88% of our students really only had one referral, right? So again, taking a look at who are we not reaching when it comes to our behavioral interventions or expectations, or where is there a mismatch? So again, safety and discipline were the single most prominent open-ended theme kind of across community questions. As you know, and as I've shared with you, we did not restore a Dean of Students position this year. That was by strategy, and we are replacing it with a behavioral coach, an interventionist, and some other supports. And we have several staff members signed up for responsive classroom training. So again, really looking at how do we set expectations in our classrooms, how do we set our classrooms up for student engagement, and really looking at how we're responding to the students that are in front of us. So I think that will be powerful. And we're looking forward to those staff members, those teaching staff members being leaders and helping to provide professional development for their fellow teachers. We had that Power Hours in 2028. Again, depending on who you were, I mean, I gotta thank Carrie and Liz. It was a tough call. I actually was out of the district that day, but it was a run. It was a practice run for us. And then safety and emergency management. Again, we're always looking at how we can do that better. Safety again on the staff engagement survey, and emergency communication improvements. Additional cameras, which we are going to be putting in this summer in our common areas. So yeah. Chloe? That is our biggest one. And then decision-making, trust, and student-centered leadership. So again, making sure that I think we feel we're making decisions in the best interest of our students, but then how are we communicating that? And drilling down a little bit more about that, like where is that maybe not, where's the communication around that, that maybe that is so low. So we will be taking a look at that, but again, we're willing to take on that challenge. And then resources, fiscal sustainability, and systemic capacity. So again, value for our tax dollars, 20% was unfavorable, 39% neutral. Resistance to referendums and open-ended feedback. Financial sustainability cited as a 5-year challenge. So again, we will continue to work on how are we communicating, how we are being fiscally responsible, things we're doing to keep the district financially sustainable. And again, you see some of the staff engagement information around that. We are constantly looking at our systems and processes supporting effective work. And then you see the community planning event information. And then workforce, workload, compensation, and retention. So a concern from the community, recruiting and retaining high quality staff, staff retention and competitive compensation, and financial sustainability, again, just looking at those things. And we are, we do want to make sure that we retain and that we recruit high quality staff. And as we go through hiring, we are noticing there are just less applicants than there were certainly when I first started as a principal. We used to have 60, 70 applicants for a position, and now we do not have that. We have 10 or 15, so it's definitely changed. And if anybody knows a great speech and language therapist. We are in need of one. And again, that workload is reasonable, so we are continually looking at the workload balance of our employees, and again, systems and processes to support effective work. As Carrie mentioned, we're bringing in that behavioral coach, we're looking at some instructional coaching. How do we assist teachers with planning? How do we assist teachers with looking at data? Again, how are we doing things with our staff, not to them? Again, we're a small district, staff wear a lot of hats. So again, looking at how are we, what processes do we have in place, and how are we making sure that wellness for our staff is a priority. And then special education and diverse learner support, and I think you heard Carrie say that in the work they are doing with CISA 2, when they disaggregated the data, there are definitely gaps between proficiency levels of our students who do not have disabilities in comparison to our students that do. So that is will be a big focus of our work, and that came up as a priority in our strategic planning feedback. And then just we have next Wednesday, we've got our first committee meeting. We've got committee introductions. We're going to be reviewing our district mission and vision, our core values. We're going to be taking a look at our current strategic pillars and priorities. And are those current pillars, do we want to keep them worded the way they are? Do we feel we need to add anything? We will be doing some of that work. And then setting the stage for smaller committees of individuals, groups to meet throughout the summer. And then in July, goal development, and in August, some action planning and review. So exciting work. Tony, if you want to move to the next page, we've got a great group of people. Some people may have been voluntold, but most people volunteered, so that's good. And you can kind of see the committee members there. Most people from the district office are included in this, and then Tony, if you want to continue on, we've got our principals, we've got our literacy specialists, math specialists, we've got some teachers on our committee, and you can keep going. We've got our school psychologist, our school counselor, our new behavioral coach, our band director, and we've got Kimberly Bean, our student support aide. And I'm still hoping that we can get a couple of special education staff members in. And then summer school started on Monday. We are off to a great start. Kids are enjoying themselves. They are hopefully having fun because we want them to be having fun. We do not want them to see summer school as something that, oh, we gotta go to summer school. So I have unfortunately not been feeling that well, so I did not get a chance to take a bunch of pictures, but we started on Monday. Our next session will begin, we have our first session ends next Friday, and then our second session will begin after the 4th. That week of the 4th, we will not have any summer school. We'll go for 2 more weeks, and then our third session begins the end of July. And we do a band camp starting at the end of July. So we're excited about it. And Carrie, I don't know if you want to add anything about summer school, but you said today it seems like the kids are engaged and the adults are engaged, so.
Yes, it's a new model that we're doing this year, and so with anything new, there's always going to be hiccups and things like that. And even with some of the hiccups, like the kids are all laughing, smiling, enjoying, and then some of the teachers, I think Mr. Gardina, I can't believe I get to play board games with the kids over summer. So some of them are excited too, and it's a nice way for them to make the learning fun in a different way, and also is less stress for them after a really long school.
Thank you. And then planning, as you know, we did a finance workshop the other day, and we went over. Jorge has been working hard with our staff on preliminary budget planning. We are working on staff professional development for August and all year long. Carrie and Liz are working on school improvement plans. Again, the data and the feedback that we're getting from those strategic planning reports will go into our school improvement plans and goals, along with our, we have our individual forward scores from 25, 26. We're working all summer on making sure we have a framework for our instructional and behavioral coaching, so those coaching cycles and metrics, how are we measuring whether what we are doing in terms of instructional and behavioral coaching is making an impact. Is it effective? As Carrie so wonderfully gave you that slideshow on our multi-level systems of support, safety planning. Lou and I are working on indoor maps updates, our student expectations behavioral matrix chart, security cameras, and then our communication plan. So lots of things going on in summer. Summer's not long enough.
Never is.
For lots of reasons. And then just upcoming events. Like I said, we just started summer school session 1. We've got our Links for Leaders that Tony heads up, which is awesome. It's a positive behavioral intervention support incentive program for our 8th grade students who just left us, who have demonstrated exemplary traits of character and leadership. And they get to play a round of golf with members of the Bristol School District faculty. And then next week, our middle school science teachers, along with Liz and I, are doing some curriculum work with Open Sci Ed, because our science curriculum, as you all know, needs a little bit of a rework, and thanks to Carrie for all of her groundwork on that. So I think that's it.
That's a lot, thank you.
Okay.
Number 8 is Jorge.
Okay, Tony, we have the PowerPoint that you could pull up there.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
You shared it with me, correct?
Yes, you could look that in the, there should be an email attached to that. And is the insurance up also as part of this section, or is that later on in the agenda?
That's later in the agenda.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we got in the, okay, all right, awesome.
It's always okay to skip it.
Yes.
Before being
Ah.
so.
In the meantime, if you could take one.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Pass down, yes.
Okay.
He's a burden.
I wasn't involved in doing it.
Oh. Oh, hi. Thank you. Sorry.
And while Tony's pulling up the PowerPoint, we can look at here on the print format. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
And at the budget workshop last week, we went really more in depth. So we got into, just a lot of the nuances with school financing and all the variables at play, right? So we looked at local, state, federal sources. We also looked internally in terms of our needs and what we need to support students. So today's presentation will not go 2 hours in depth into all of that information. It'll be more of a synopsis, playing off of what we did last week, which was look at the preliminary budget. So the first slide here that you see is going into 26-27 in terms of total expenses. So when we're looking at total expenses, we're looking at what our total operational budget going into 26-27 is. I think it would be good to look at a historical, right? So when we look at 24-25, we can see what was budgeted as far as Fund 10, right? And then the actual expenditures. So in the fiscal year 24-25, which runs from July 1st through June 30th, okay? So in that would be from 7/1/2024 to 6/30 of 2025, we had our revenues set at budgeted at 11,019,466. Our actual expenditures came in just shy of that, right? So they came in at 10,954,191,000, which then, right, if you do the balance between those offset, we had a surplus in the fiscal year of 2024-2025, and the amount of the surplus was 65,275. When we look at the current year, right, we still have a lot of activity. The year is still ending. We're still looking at claims. We're still receiving some revenues from different sources. There are still some expenditures that are occurring within, leading up to June 30th. We anticipate those expenditures, to have a net neutral budget. We're working with Lucida, which is our auditors and our auditing agency firm, and they guide us in the process as far as telling us where we're at position-wise for where we will end up at the year's end. So far, based on that's why we do the monthly budget reports where we track, what expenditures are looking in terms of all those groupings, right? So what's our salary expense look like? What does our insurance look like? What does our, cost for educational sources look like, right? We look at everything from undifferentiated curriculum to the different specialized, sources. We also look at special education. We look at contracted services. So we look at all the different key areas and where we're coming in terms of current year expenses. So our actuals in contrast with our budgeted amounts. And so far, based on all those reporting that we do the monitoring, and we monitor that very closely, it looks like our expenses are certainly under what we projected, right? And so that's good news going into the year end. We should have some better indication as far as what the year totals look like for year end. And the possibility there that if there are some funds that are available through a surplus, how those funds can be allocated and best used, right? Do those contribute to fund balance? Can those be transferred into a Fund 46, for example, to provide us a buffer in terms of projects that we may have looking ahead with buildings and such. So that is still underway. You can see the budgeted year for 26-27. So if you think in terms of the pie of the operational budget, you can see from 24-25 how that grew year to year in 25-26, how that is projected to grow in 26-27, right? And so this is just a quick chart, and I think we're on the previous one there, Tony, but it's a quick chart just to see, the size of that operational budget as a whole, right, and the change there. The next slide over gets into the distribution of that, right? So we looked at that total amount, and so our total budget, but how is that comprised? So 66.13% would be levied amounts, so those are tax dollars. 33.87 would be equalized amounts, so that's our federal sources, our state sources, and that's what that entire pie consists of, right? So that's just to give a distribution of that amount that we looked at in the previous slide of 11,511,335 going into next year. So that chart would be our projected distribution amount going into next year in terms of tax levy and equalization aid. The next slide over covers what those increases would be, right? What the net change would be across those funds. So this is when we're discussing levy amounts, right? And we look at our general fund. Okay? So then the change is a 1.35 increase going into 26-27 in terms of operational costs. We did look at in the budget workshop that there is an increase from state as far as $325 per year, what that revenue expense per student is. So that goes up because of due to inflationary costs, and that is our threshold of what we're able to spend on a per student basis. You also do see a slight increase there from the non-referendum debt and referendum debt. One of them is a 0.006%, the other is a 3.4%. And then you can see the distribution of those three levy category amounts. Okay. The next slide over looks into special education reimbursement. And it looks at that 5-year historical rate of reimbursement through the state in terms of federal, state reimbursement for special education services. So the reimbursement rate projected for next year in 2026 that we budgeted is 39.5%. The state.
These are actuals.
These are actuals. Yeah. The state says that it may be higher, right? They're saying it could be as high as 45%. Being conservative, we're saying that we're budgeting within our numbers 39.5. Benefits projections, and we covered this in the budget workshop, but just as a good refresher, right? Costs go up, they increase. So health insurance is projected to go up. Based on the conversations that we've had with our health insurance brokers and account representatives, they believe it to go up somewhere around 10%. It's 5%, excuse me, and we're budgeting more than that. We're budgeting 10% just to be cautionary going into next year. and so that's where we budgeted that amount. The dental insurance is projected to remain flat, and it has remained flat year to year, so we don't anticipate any increase there. WRS, which is the Wisconsin Retirement System, right? There's also not projected an increase in this year. That's currently at 14.4%. It's 7.2 that the employee contributes, and then 7.2 that the district contributes, and that's on a per pay basis for all staff that qualify for retirement benefit. Fund 10 operational budget, which is the next slide over. So this is just a recap of going into 26-27 for our preliminary budget, where we're anticipating that our revenues and our expenses will net zero out, so that we anticipate going into next year a net neutral budget. And so that's where we're at currently. And if there's any questions, and I know we looked at another with the reports that we received, just seeing where the main numbers are at, I went ahead and did some more work and looked at just June. I was eager to see, because we did receive some revenues in this month, as all school districts do, and just seeing where we're positioning for the upcoming year end. And so I'm eager to share that with you soon as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions on this great presentation? Thank you, Jorge.
Thanks
Nice
for working.
to see all
It's very
this stuff.
comprehensive.
It's really helpful.
Okay, awesome.
All right, public comments. Any public comments? No. 10A was the first reading of the 9 policies. Anybody have any questions on those policies?
Ron, any questions on the policies? The first
No.
reading.
Not the first reading.
Okay. If we have no questions, then we will put that on the July board meeting agenda for our second reading.
Okay.
10B, we have 2 for our second reading that we had on our May agenda, which was policy 6111 and 7310. Can I get a motion to approve the second reading for these 2 policies?
Make a motion to approve the second reading of policies PO 6111, PO 7310.
And a second on that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 5-0.
Would you like a motion on the first readings, because it was on the notes? I just want to make sure.
No.
Okay. Okay.
No, thank you. Moving on to 10C is the MJ Care contract.
Okay, you have the MJ Care contract in front of you. We do contract with MJ Care for physical therapist services for students who have those services written into their IEPs. So this is sort of our annual contract with them based on, they base their fees on the number of minutes that we have written in to our students' IEPs and the number of students we have with those services. So their physical therapists have done a great job for us. We're happy with their services, and I'm going to recommend that we continue to use MJ Care for our physical therapy services at this time, because we're just not a large enough district that we can employ our own physical therapist.
This is all budgeted for, I'm assuming, because you're so thorough.
Budget for this.
Yeah. Great.
I'll make a motion to approve the MJ Care contract for the 26-27 school year. I'll second.
All right, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the draft of the 2026-2027 student handbook.
And I got a little bit of feedback on the handbook. I am going to ask that the board approve the draft. This will be a working document, but I wanted you to see, like, this is the basic framework of what is in the student handbook. You really should have your eyes on it every year. And again, though, knowing that it will be revised, especially with a couple of the policies that you're gonna be doing second readings on, those will need to be referred to in that student handbook. And again, as administrative guidelines get edited and policies change, we may be tweaking it, but you have the core of the student handbook. I also wanted to make sure that this got in your hands because this is a big part of information parents need for registration, and we'd really like to move our registration up, so.
You also said something out about cell phones.
Yes,
Can you
so,
go into a little bit of that?
sure, so, well, by July 1st, every
Yeah.
district in Wisconsin has to have their cell phone policy in place. And again, Bristol was pretty forward on that one. We've got a solid cell phone policy. It's our procedures that we need to make sure that we're enacting. So again, it already was in our policy that students are not to have cell phones out during instructional time. They're supposed to be turned off, put away, all of those things. There's exceptions, right? Like if you're a student who needs a personal communication device, and I guess we're talking cell phones, but we're also talking smartwatches, iPads, e-readers, Kindles, all of those things kind of fall under it. If you're a student who needs a personal communication device to monitor your glucose or a different health situation, then by all means you can have that. If a student has it written in their IEP or 504, that's another exception. If the classroom teacher it says, hey, get your personal smartphones out, we're going to do an assignment on these. Yes, that's allowable. And then in the event, heaven forbid, that we would have an armed intruder situation or other situation, we have to make sure that kids have access to their personal communication devices. So those are the 4 exceptions. Otherwise, and again, there's a lot of research that shows that having smartphones and cell phones and access to social media 24/7 is not conducive to a positive, safe learning environment. Going back to safety, we're not just talking about physical safety, we're talking about social and emotional safety. And our goal next year is to really make sure that our students are here and they're learning and they feel safe and they are not worried about somebody taking a snapshot of them in a bathroom or a different place or recording them, or worried that people are talking about them on social media during school and they have to check their phones, right? Those are all distractions, and our kids deserve better than that, and so do our teachers. Again, we certainly understand parents need to communicate with their child during the day. So our goal is to purchase caddies that the kids can put their cell phones in when they arrive. We've got a little figuring out to do on the logistics, right? But, and again, parents are welcome to call our school. We've got phones. And, if a child really needs to text their parent, we will figure it out. But we are going to make sure that we are really following our policy next year. So.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question. On the student handbook, we don't give an actual printed copy to parents.
We don't.
Okay.
No.
So then they should be aware that this is a working document.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Any other questions?
Nope, I like the fact that the policies are actually linked in there, which that's never been the case.
Yeah.
I like that, knowing that when the links, then when it changes, it will update this document as well.
One of the best improvements I saw was that linking of the documents
For sure,
to other policies. Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
So I'll make a motion to approve your draft.
I'll second it.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 10E, which is club and extracurricular stipends.
So you have the 2026-2027 extracurricular activities facilitator guide there, right? Here are all the activities that may necessitate having an extracurricular facilitator for the extracurricular activity. May not, right? But we just wanted to put them out there. These are are positions that our principals and our athletic director, Jorge and I met with our athletic director last Friday. We kind of went through and determined are needed. I don't believe the athletic director one will come, supervisor for athletics will come at a different time. But again, so you've got the list of activities, and then we also wanted to take a look at the stipend amounts because they haven't been updated in several years. And we do appreciate our staff that take on these extra responsibilities. And they're, again, kind of our pillar about, extending students' learning and opportunities. A big part of that happens because we have faculty that are willing to engage and do these extracurriculars. So we do appreciate that. And so you will see the stipend amount that staff received in 24-25, the stipend amount they received last year, and then the proposed new stipend amount. And Jorge, I don't know if you want to add anything on that?
Yes, that those stipend amounts had remained flat for several years, and so if you're looking at the current year, 25-26, and as we budget into next year, those have increased by 20%. So that's that net change that you're looking year to year over. When you see the parentheses, that is per person per club, right? So you take the entire stipend amount that is for the club and then divide that by the number of people. So like, for example, if I had any type of club that I wanted to make up, right? I couldn't just say, oh, well, now everyone that helps me out gets this amount, right? It's the club gets that amount, and you can split that, by how many people are needed to support the club. So that's
Sure.
what the parentheses is there for. Yep, and I, met with Carrie, discussed the clubs. We made sure to go through line by line and make sure that who's in, who's out. Clubs that are no longer active came off the list. New clubs that arise, right? And are having success, and they're new clubs on the scene, and let's support them as well. So it's a updated, renovated list.
And we are hoping to bring in National Junior Honor Society this year, so excited about that.
That was my question. I'm like, I didn't know we had that, but I like it.
We're working on it.
Very cool.
Oh,
Very cool.
and a homework club, one that is actually staffed with 2 staff members, again, as part of the multi-level systems of support for students who, maybe it's time management, maybe they actually need help with some of their assignments after school. So.
Wasn't there an AV club on here or something?
There's a renegade production team.
A what?
What is it?
The Renegade Production Team.
Oh, is that what it's called? Okay.
Yeah, we do all the live broadcasts, basketball games.
I don't see that in here.
Yeah. Did that one get left off?
Hmm.
Did you get laughed off?
What's that? But they do a lot of editing. They do a lot. So,
There's just no stipend for it.
Oh,
well,
We can revisit that too
Okay.
when we bring the athletics back. Yeah, sorry about that. Good catch.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve the current list for the extracurricular and club stipends.
I'll second.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the revisiting of the open enrollment.
So, 4K enrollment, back in January, the board approved a class size of 68 students for our 4K program. Currently, or as of June 10th, there were 37 Bristol residents that had registered. 12 applications were approved in January, and we have 12 open enrollment intents back, meaning that parents said they're coming. So that brings us up to 49. And then we still have 10 applicants on the waiting list. And we have 14 open spots. I'm gonna recommend that the board approve 5 additional open enrollment applicants from the waiting list at the board meeting in June. That will leave us 14 open spots for neighborhood move-ins or families who have not yet registered. And then I'm going to recommend that the board revisit the remaining 5 on the waiting list at the July meeting. But again, I want to make sure that we are, that we're doing our due diligence for families maybe who have not registered yet or are still moving in.
How many kids are in a 4K session? or class?
in a
Because
class.
there's 2 sessions.
Yep, there's.
a
there's-
day, right?
Yep, there's 2 sessions a day, so 17, yeah,
Is that what we've had in the past?
15, 16. 17.
They're pretty active at 4, so,
They-
I mean, I would think you want the class sizes smallish.
Yeah, and they do, we do have, each classroom does have a classroom aide, that is not a special education aide, but just simply a classroom aide. So there is a second set of eyes and ears and hands in there at all times, but yes, you are right, they are active.
So you're asking for approval for 5 more now, and then we'll revisit this again in July?
Correct, correct.
Okay.
Just 5 across the board in all grades, or
No,
Just
just
for
for
K.
K.
just for
4K.
4K?
Mhm.
Yeah, just because we have 10 on the
5
waiting
open
list,
enrollment.
but that will leave, even after we approve the 5, we have 14 open spots. So if
Correct.
in district,
Open spots.
But
yeah, meaning like,
For
but we're
in-district
not-
kids moving in.
we're not adding a session.
no.
We are not. No.
Okay.
No, it's
Okay.
just fulfilling more seats.
Mhm.
I just needed to get my head around that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve 5 additional open enrollee spots for 4K for the 26-27 school year.
I'll second. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Any nays? Oh, sorry, motion carries, not looking. You're not on here. Motion carries 5-0.
You'll have some happy parents.
You get to be Santa Claus.
Right? You get to be Santa Claus. All right. Nick, this is you.
Cool. Sorry if I go up this way. Can I pull that tape out just a little bit so I was thinking this?
Yes,
All right. Just don't want to.
whatever you need.
Makes this a little bit easier in case there's questions about things. All right. First of all, thanks for having me come in today. I'll be concise to a degree with what I'm presenting, but I think it's always good to talk about who I am, the company I represent, and the insurance program that I'm bringing forward to you. So first of all, I'm a community member. I have 2 boys that go to Salem Grade School. My wife is a special ed teacher at Westchester Central, so education. And then I'm a board member. I've been a board member, vice president at Salem Grade School for the last 13 years, I think, 13 or 14 years. So I understand what you guys do, understand the hours and the time that goes into this, and sometimes change can be a difficult thing to do. Hopefully this change is a little bit easier for you all, okay? I'm also a coach for youth football. We're heavily involved with 4-H in the community. We are the Dairy Goat project leaders, I guess you could say, for 4-H. We're also part of the Dairy Project, the Dairy Cow Project, and a bunch of other stuff. So we're very actively involved in the community setting, volunteering, coaching, teaching, all that stuff. So when it comes to my profession as an insurance agent, intertwining those 2 things together, I've historically not really worked with school districts in the past, but I had a wealth of knowledge about them. In the last couple of years, with the challenging budget issues that school districts have, you don't make widgets, right? You don't make things. So the budget is the budget. And we have to find ways to make sure that we can support that budget and support those numbers, right? So taking my insurance knowledge, taking some of the market share that I have, taking my school knowledge and the community knowledge and putting those all together, I've been pretty successful working with school districts in the area to provide a package that I think is robust, it's holistic, and ultimately I think better protects you and the school much better than other policies in the past may have, okay? The company I work for is called Bison's. We're a family-owned company. We're based out of Heartland. We have 3 regions in Wisconsin. We have the Heartland region, which is our main area, the Kenosha Racine, and then Appleton, Green Bay. We just acquired another company. We're now present in North and South Dakota and Minnesota. So we went from, when I started working there over a decade ago, I was one of 38 people when called RC Insurance back then, to now over 500 people in 4 states. So we've had rapid growth. We are not owned by a PEO. We're a very independent, family company, which makes us I think it makes us a little more robust and do things that other companies may not do, right? Because we're in control of our own ways of doing things rather than sharing. So the insurance The insurance program I'm bringing has kind of a two-tier set system. So the first one is the Hartford, which they're working with you for the workers' compensation portion. If you're looking at the proposal, I mean, that would be page, sorry. You guys all had a chance to look at this prior to this,
Yep.
Yes.
okay, so that being said, really, there's not a full description of it, but it starts on page 6 where your workers' compensation is. One thing that I believe that's important is utilizing your loss history to help support getting incentives back from insurance companies. So historically, most insurance companies would offer school districts a 10% flat dividend, which means your base premium, your manual premium at a 10% rate at the audit time you get back at the end of the policy. The Hartford was willing to go up to a 20%, so they doubled down on what historically you've only had 10% to 20%, which that's guaranteed money to the degree. Nothing's ever guaranteed. Even if you're A++ care, nothing's ever guaranteed. There's only been one case of that never happened in insurance history. But for the most part, you can plan on that moving forward, and it goes from roughly a $78,000 savings compared to a $4,000 savings in the past. So I thought that was really aggressive on them. And that's kudos to you guys as a school district maintaining a safe work environment for your staff members. I also think that's also something moving forward we can't let off the gas on. Maintaining a safe work environment to keep those costs down. It's the best way of you controlling your insurance premiums is having minimal loss on the workers' compensation side. So the Hartford, they're a great company. I was very ecstatic to hear that they're willing to be aggressive on that, which means that they want to work with you. The second company is called CIC Community Insurance Company. They only represent school districts and municipalities in the state of Wisconsin. If you look towards the back of your packet, I also included a sheet that will look like this. It gives you kind of a better idea of who they represent. So this is a list, this sheet right here. This is a list of districts. I didn't give one. I've sent it to you in the past, and or yeah, I'll give one here too as well. This is right here. So they only represent school districts and municipalities in the state of Wisconsin. You can see some pretty large districts on here, right, and small districts. Their idea set is that school districts and municipalities are hard to insure because if it's not included, or if it's not excluded, it's included in policies, and that's insurance jargon. I won't go too far in that. However, they understand that your traditional policy may not, it leaves gaps potentially moving forward. So the idea is that they're going to give you a broad-based limit, and then unless it's excluded, it's included in their policy. So we have you written at a $7 million limit. There's no umbrellas, there's none of that, it's a base limit. And the idea is it's encompassing of everything underneath that blanket. That's why it works really well for municipalities because of all the exposure that they might have on a day-to-day basis. Similarly, in a school district. CIC is really what makes this proposal competitive because they understand what they're doing in the district area, especially in the state of Wisconsin, as you can see on the list I provided. They do offer some higher limits for extremely competitive prices. Sometimes when I look at what they offer as far as the pricing structure goes, I kind of scratch my head because it's just so competitive. And I don't know how they do it, but they do it, and a lot of people work with them, including the CSAs and things of the nature, a lot of CSAs, right? So they won't write anywhere else. State of Wisconsin, that's where they rock and roll, yeah.
So if on page 8, where
Yep.
it says to go from 7 to 8 million, it's only an extra $822
That's what I'm talking.
for the year?
It's the cheapest $1 million.
Well, that sounds interesting. Okay.
So to give you perspective, your previous policy, you had different limits for different categories of insurance. So for example, your board policy, which would be called the linebacker policy, there would be a different limit that would be on the general liability, that would be different on your umbrella. So we kind of just say, hey, let's not mess around with limits all over the place. We're going to give you a broad-based limit. We're going to cover all the stuff that's necessary to do so, and then we're going to make it affordable for the district. Yes.
Can you tell me what identity recovery is?
That is if you have your identity taken through a functionality through the school, they'll help to the best of their ability, try to recover some of the misfortune that occurred during that period of time. I believe on one of the sheets it does talk about that in the quoting section here.
Would that be something that would be like protected at the district level? Why would a...
It's a, how would we say this? it's a benefit, I would say, to an employee of the district. You know, you don't have, it's pretty affordable too, I guess you can say. By the state of Wisconsin standards, I'm not sure federally, but the state of Wisconsin would say we had a data breach here, right? We have to report to the state, we have to offer free credit monitoring for a year to each. I'm sure you guys gotten those pieces of mails from one institution or another,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we have that ability, but we can go a step further and try to help those who have had their identity taken through those processes to help try to recover that. So there's a benefit that CIC does offer as well. And in the other sheet, not the proposal one that looks like this, that's in the, but the one that looks like, almost looks like that.
Okay.
There's some communication on what that looks like in, they don't have it listed as page numbers, but the
It's like
identity.
the fifth one.
Yeah, so there's a pretty big bullet point line.
Legal fees, phone, postage, shipping fees, notary fees, credit bureau reports, lost wages.
It's pretty
Counseling.
inclusive. It's pretty inclusive, and they're taking the approach that we're gonna understand school districts. If you've gone to any WAS events, I say WAS because there's so many different acronyms for it, right? If you go on to that, they are sponsored by, you know, they're endorsed by a lot of these affiliations in the state. In fact, they work directly with a lot of the WASs, one-on-one. So, yeah. So the WASs, because there's WASB, WASBO,
Right,
WASB, so I say the WASs, right? So, you know, the district that I'm a board member at, we've made this transition several years ago. One thing I can say that, you know, when people might say, hey, will it come in less expensive this year with covers, things of that nature? What if we have a bunch of losses? Are they going to drop us? What's going to look like this or that? Wilmont had some losses this last year. It's public knowledge. It's a public school. And I'd say the total into a pretty heavy number. They came back with an extremely minimal increase. I'm talking nominal to what the budget was, to the point where I sat down with Christy and told her the number. She said, she like sighed. She was like, oh my goodness, all right, we can move forward with this, right? So they understand that you're going to have losses as a school district. They try to keep the rate increases extremely low because they understand you can't just go find money somewhere unless you do a referendum or you cut programs and things like that. So, so we're representing the building and the liabilities through CIC, and then the workers' compensation through the Hartford. I do have a strategy plan moving forward too to even help further some savings for the district possibly. The property coverage is a company called Chubb. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before.
I've heard of Chubb.
Yeah, they wanted to get in on a quote here that was going to be probably even more competitive than what I was able to offer today on the property side. They just didn't have enough time because they're going internally, they're changing over a bunch of underwriters. So they said next year, get it to us, we want to be competitive with this. They saw the rate that you guys had this year for the property and they said that we can absolutely do that. So I can almost come in and say, barring some situations that are untold, there's a strategy helping moving forward for cost reduction too. So I think when you think about your budgetary model, talk about deductibles, Jorge and I talked about Fund 46, and then, you know, again, when you have a surplus in 10 going into 46, I hope that you guys can't necessarily use it, but we at Salem, we utilize it all the time. I mean, all the time. So I think trying to build it up through strategies, utilizing deductible options, and then essentially your loss history, I think is it's a good strategy of building fund balance in the future if you want to use it that way. Okay. Also, I think if you go to referendum or whatever the case is, it does show, okay, we're going next year, so. But if that's the case, it just shows holistically you're doing all your due diligence to maintain savings and work for the district, right? So, yeah, that's kind of that's me in a nutshell. Yes.
I'm an insurance geek.
I've heard.
Can you, so you mentioned Hartford being A++ rated.
No, I was talking with regards to an A++ carrier with regards to a dividend being paid out. Nothing's ever guaranteed even if you're A++ rated company.
100%.
So yeah, I think the Hartford's an A or an A+ company.
They are A+. And we looked at CIC 2 years ago, and again, insurance geek, I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, it's all this really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then I looked at their AM Best rating, which was
Not
a
rated.
B+++ with a forward thought
So
in 2013.
Correct. So I was very prepared for this
I
question.
know, I'm
today.
sure that these people informed you, but my concern was and still is, you know, AM Best isn't a guarantee, but
No.
it does rate the financial claims paying ability of an insurance carrier.
Sure. So AM Best is one way the insurance industry judges an insurance company. Prior to this last year, when CIC was its own company, it's now called Charles Taylor. It's part of Charles Taylor, which the paper that they utilize sounds like 3 steps, but it's similar to how Canal gets their A-rated paper and all this stuff, right? Everyone works together to try to achieve the best rating possible, and it's putting financials together and claim strategies, right? So 2 years ago, CIC was unrated. They weren't even part of the AM Best structure. They were so linear in their thought processes of what they do. The AM Best structure will look at you and say, well, you are not diversified in your funding. You're very linear in your product of what you're trying to sell to. It's only municipalities and school districts. So even if they were at an AM Best level at that point in time, it would be a very negative outlook because they're so linear in what they do. So very specialized. So Charles Taylor, which is a subgroup of Aegis Insurance Company, at the start of this year when they pulled them in from the Charles Taylor portion into Aegis, it was rated A. When they restructured the AM Best rating, it's B++ with a stable rating going right now. So essentially what they said is, hey, you took on this new entity who was previously unrated. We're going to see how this goes. It seems stable because your financials are looking okay. B++ is the first step to getting to A. So essentially we're going to take our time, watch how you guys are doing. We were Charles Taylor and Aegis paper, and after the evaluation period, the outlook is ++, meaning that we're looking to upgrade you, but you're so new to the structure, we have to see how it works out, right? Because this is something you went unrated to a rated system. We're going to downgrade Aegis down to a B++ because of this transition, and now we're going to give you a year or 2 to find out, and then we're going to re-upgrade you.
So is CIC rated?
CIC, because of its, now it is through
It is?
Charles Taylor, because it's a Charles Taylor company now. There's a lot of sub-companies to it, right? So CIC is the division of insurance that I'm presenting to you for the liabilities and the property.
Right.
Charles Taylor is the subgroup of Aegis that took CIC, essentially bought that book of business.
Yeah.
And then CIC's paper is written on Aegis. So it's the transition into Aegis. So Aegis is the main company, which is a massive, massive insurance company. So essentially they're creating a division, which I guess in the future, if you look at the outlook of them taking on a risk like this, I'm sure there's other states that have similar CIC type of insurance entities. It's possibly a way that they're diversifying their portfolio and able to look at growth opportunities for their shareholders. So that moving forward, I would say we as a company, we historically don't write with anyone less than an A rated. That's been a policy. This was the exception to our company. Just because of the specialization, its reach and what we do. I mean, we write, the municipalities we write with them too. I mean, it's not just school districts, we write, you know, localized municipalities. I think Bristol's written with CIC
I
actually.
thought they were just,
Yeah, I think that, you know, Village here is written with CIC.
Having been
Racine.
through a company that disappeared overnight.
Badger?
No, this was in '91.
Sure.
But, you know, now you have all of your customers, like, they have no insurance. They don't get a refund
Yeah.
because it's gone. It's over.
Yeah, well, that's the reason I brought this too, right? I think if you look at the districts on here, depending the size and the probability of what they're able to offer, I think if you took all those minds together and the decisions that were made in all those districts, I think the vetting, I would say through as many people as written with them, if there was a problem with them, I think not only would the WASs disregard them completely, right, because they endorsed them, I think all these school districts would light the fire about who CIC is moving forward to, right?
I don't disagree with you, but this is a product that's very complicated, and it is the most ambiguous contract out there.
Well, I
So,
think
it's
what's
okay.
interesting about CIC is they try to make it less complicated.
They do.
They're
It's-
making a blanket limit for a situation that could be, where there could be a gap, they're eliminating those gaps.
I saw all of that. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, when I read it 2 years ago, I was like, oh my God, this is great.
Mhm.
But my comfort level waned fast. Okay.
I would say
Thank
also
you.
too, as insurance agents, if the products that we represent don't deliver, there's something that we carry, it's called errors and omissions in insurance, right?
Well,
So in this particular situation, if there was something that we offered that didn't end up delivering, our company's errors and omissions would typically come into play based on those facts, I would say you would have
What
a
is
bid
that
limit.
limit?
What is our,
Yeah,
it's a protected thing, we can send you guys what our agency limit is on E&O,
yeah,
it's very high,
okay.
very high. We try to keep certain things private, similar to, some of those things, yes, so.
Well, I mean, you offered that you guys
Yeah,
would
no, I
cover
mean,
it,
that just,
so,
as a remedy for a situation that could occur,
sure.
that's why we carry that type of insurance as agents and as an agency, to protect our clients.
Okay, great.
So. Is there any other questions? I mean, I was really excited. First of all, I gotta say this, the process of working with your guys' team, Michelle and Jorge, has been, it's a process. I mean, you don't wanna miss stuff. And the communication, if you looked at the total amount of emails that we've sent probably back and forth to each other, it's a lot, right? So the time and effort that it took to go through this process it wasn't unnoticed from my perspective, because I understand all the other things that are going on. Plus, you got the end of school year coming on. So I think it's a great team working with other administrators in other districts. I'd say you have an exemplary team here. Should be really happy.
Yes.
I'd be happy if I was a board member here with the
Yes.
team. And I'm not just trying to paint the wall here, right? Hey, guys, no. Yeah, well, I'm just saying, being a board member for as long as I've been, you've seen a lot of things, right? So that being said, I think you guys, you've got a good team, which is great. It's really good.
Thank you.
And one thing I do, there's other things I want to do moving forward. Like I said, I'll try to keep this concise. For me personally, just writing the policy isn't the end of what I should be doing to help you grow as a district. I have a lot of knowledge in the insurance base and how it pertains to the insurance portion of that. Furthermore, trainings, I think workers' comp training, I did a training over at Wilmot that was really eye-opening for a lot of administrative team over there. Granted, it's a whole different ball of wax over there than what you have here, but like I said, one of the cost mitigation tools ultimately for you guys is the workers' compensation piece. So let's make sure that we try to work through that process and make sure it's a benefit to the district. And for our employees, we want to take care of our winter employees, but I think there's work we could do on that for sure. That would be a nice start.
So with this policy, there's multiple tiers. There's the difference between the two deductibles.
Yep.
And then there's the difference of adding on the 8 million versus the 7 million.
Correct.
And then the violent acts, and then the identity recovery.
Yep. Those are all transitions or add-ons that we could put on there.
Okay.
So they originally quoted you at 6. I had the proposal set at 7 because the difference is $331. I said let's put it at 7 at least to kind of meet the middle. So if you wanted to, reduce premium, we could do that. If you wanted to increase a little bit, we could do that with limits. One thing that I'd say about the property, I think the savings there could be very fund healthy, meaning that your loss history is promoting that you don't have a lot of property claims here. So rather than give the insurance companies a paycheck every month or every year for something that you may not ever use, I think especially when you're talking about fund building and things like that, I'm aware of certain things here, right? I think that's a good way to save some money that way, and perhaps utilize that saved money as a benefit in the future for maintaining or fixing certain things. I think that would be a great way to do that. In $10,000, so let me explain how this works. $10,000 deductible, essentially anything under $10,000, you guys are what we call self-insuring. So let's say you had a thing that happened that was $11,000, right? The first $10,000 of that, you get a $1,000 check essentially. So that would be safe, right? So really we're looking at catastrophic incidents, right? So we at the district, at my district that I work, or that I'm a board member at, we have a limit of certain things that, hey, if this one bad or something happened, we already pre-approved to get these certain things fixed. It's going to happen. Anything over that, it's more catastrophic, then we'll use our insurance on that.
Basically, your homeowners, same as your homeowners.
Very,
insurance.
very, very similar, right? So we don't want to use our insurance policy as a budget gap deficit fixer, right? We want to use it as a something happened fixer, right? So I think if you're going to take, I think the benefit, 2 years of savings makes up the $10,000 in one incident in a year, and you guys don't have a lot of incidents. So my recommendation would be to put that back in your pocket of the school district and utilize it that way. If you feel like you want to be traditional with how you got things set up, you can keep it the way it is, I'm okay with any way you guys wanna take it. It just depends on what you strategically wanna accomplish. We try to make insurance that, like you said, Joanne, isn't a complicated thing. We try to make it a little bit more simple.
I like everything you're saying.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I really
Oh.
like that approach. It's
Yeah.
how I think too.
Me too.
This one piece, just
Sure. Sure.
having gone through that terrible scenario
Sure.
is,
Yeah. I'll understand.
Okay, one more tiny question
Yes.
on the, which is a small piece, but the identity. If people utilize it, it doesn't affect our overall rating. It just would be for what you would quote us the following year per, and that, on
So-
that endorsement.
It's a really good question. I think this is good knowledge across the board for all insurances, right? Whether it's your personal or business. Anytime you utilize insurance in a capacity to fix something, it counts against you. So, would say the coverage only, the premium side only costs you, $130 a year. But then it incurs $17,000 in identity. That would be on your loss runs, which then when the underwriter the following year would look at your account, they would take that in consideration of the increase or decrease at that point.
But just for the endorsement, if we chose to do it the following year for the identity piece, it's not like the whole kit and caboodle gets affected.
no,
Okay, just,
No, only if there's so losses or valuation are the only two things. So let's say your payroll goes up, your workers' comp goes up because there's more payroll.
yeah.
Would say you add an addition or we have a reappraisal of the building, and that's one thing that CAC will do for free for you too, is they'll do a free appraisal of the building to make sure that if there's a total loss that your agreed upon value, which is around $50 million, is enough to rebuild. I think you should take advantage of that, right? So, and then losses, right? So valuations, payroll, and losses are your big three drivers, I would say. Or the addition of things, right? More things, more money.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Stop It, I read through it and I looked through it when I got here. Is there any plans at school here, Michelle, to use this, to leverage this?
So
Stop
the-
It feels the same as Speak Up, Speak Out,
Yeah, that's.
so
And I
it
know
feels,
you guys
it
have
feels
that.
duplicate.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
And I think
yeah.
that's free
And it's
for you
free
guys,
through
right?
the Department of Justice.
Yeah,
And
so-
it's anonymous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
okay. That's
And
where I was going.
And item 42, I know that
Read
I'm
your
the person
mind.
standing in front of you guys talking about selling you a product essentially. But there's a lot of people in the area who do utilize this insurance and some of these combinations. Feel free to reach out to the administrators there, talk about the product itself. I mean, they're gonna probably tell you a lot of things. If you really want a good discussion, talk to Christy Weinstock over at Wilmot. She probably, being now into her second year, and she had some issues that happened. I think she'd talk about the ease of use and the how everything worked out. I think they'd be,
do you know if any of the schools that this company insures has had a total loss, a tornado or something significant?
Well, Elkhorn had that fire, last year? 2 years? I forget I'll talk to Ryan DePern about that, our new administrator, and see kind of what that was, but I can't recall any full total losses. To be fair, most school districts are built to be shelters for children because they know they're housing children, right?
Sure.
So they're built like this, right?
Yeah,
And not framed, right? So typically, a total loss is a rare thing. Plus, with all the referendums that are going through across the state, the referendums are getting passed. The day-to-day operations referendums are tougher. By code, every time you update, you have to put sprinkler systems in, right? So a lot of schools already had fire walls or fire barriers, and now we're implementing fire suppression with sprinklers because of those additions or remodels.
With sensors and everything that.
Yeah, so I don't know if I've ever heard of a
With new
full total
fire
loss.
hydrants, which they made us do.
Yeah, because you have sprinklers in some of the building, right? I thought I saw it in Horton's
it
office.
should be in
Yeah,
all of
like
it, isn't
some of the
it?
newer
Yeah.
spots, right? But not the whole building. It's like us in
Yeah.
Salem. There's half of the building has it with firewalls, the other half has sprinklers with where we remodeled. So,
Right.
Thank you for answering my
Yeah.
questions.
so.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to approve this property and liability insurance renewal with a deductible of, I'm typing and talking at the same time, increasing the deductible to $10,000, was the savings of $6,077. Increasing the liability to $8 million.
Mm-hmm.
And the identity recovery would only be as if something happens at school.
It's in relation to the business policy here, so yes, it would have to be in relation to the district's policy, insurance policy.
Okay. Adding the identity recovery for additional 714 additional premium. Seeking a second.
Do we need to add the auto medical payments or violent acts?
If you don't have school auto, it's a good question. I think we should talk about it real quick here. I know you're in the middle of a motion. If you get a second, or if you get a move, then there's
Yep.
discussion.
The violent act, was it not the speak up, speak out?
No, violent act is different. That protects us if there's a violent act at school. So it's $85, so I would recommend adding it.
Okay, so my motion, this is how my motion is gonna read. Motion to approve the property liability insurance renewal with the $10,000 deductible increase. Increasing to $8 million for the liability. Adding the violent act and adding the identity recovery.
Except it's not a renewal, this is a new purchase. Your motion was to accept the renewal.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I mean, when we go back and look, what did we do? We accepted the renewal.
Okay, so we're adding the violent act, adding the emotional recovery. Seeking a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays?
Nay.
Was that you?
No,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. There's me.
Should we discuss the auto medical payments separately?
I think since it's already, I can tell you what it is and we can
Yeah.
endorse it on after.
Yeah.
Understanding the district doesn't have its own vehicles right now, neither do you allow staff members to move students, right, without authorized vehicle situation. That auto pay would be in a situation where you had a district vehicle that you're moving students off, and I understand the minivan that you guys have is no longer gonna be moving, so if that changes, what I would say is endorse it under the policy, so you have those elements. Understanding the district, unless I missed something, if we're not doing any of that action, it's not needed, but if we start doing that action, we can add that on at any time. We can endorse it under the policy.
Thanks.
Or if you perceive it to be in the future, we can always add it on now, so you don't forget about it. Not saying that's the case, but either way, however you wanna work that out, will be available. Good question.
Do you think we're gonna need that?
Well, you never know, I guess, but, right, yeah.
So the idea of this, so your employee is covered under workers' comp. The students typically are only covered under their health benefits, right? You don't, as a district, you don't typically pay for their deductibles. Things. There are policies where we can get that work. Districts, some districts ask for that. I don't know if that's in the best interest of the
We used to
district.
have that.
It just creates controversy what I've seen in the past. So, in this particular case, the med pay is a non-fault coverage that says, hey, you're not going to sue us, we're not going to sue you, you broke your arm, here's $1,000, sign this piece of paper, we're done, right? We're not on the liable side of that anyways as it sits, and we do have liability coverage that if we were found to be negligent, we'd have coverage for that. So, I mean, if it's a one in every so often thing, you really want to make sure that we're protected, we could always add that. But if there's no plans on that happening right now, it's something for you guys to discuss in the future, and it can be available to do so.
What is your perception of, because we do reimburse like McKinney-Vento transportation and sometimes, I'm just wondering if, because we're reimbursing it, if we are absorbing any potential liability.
Not really. So care custody and control comes into effect here,
Okay.
right? So when you have a third-party entity that you're hired onto, the one thing I would suggest making sure is that they have a certificate of insurance listed as additional name insured and waiver subrogation. So essentially, we're protecting the district and allowing them to operate their business and keeping us out of the line. So in those contracts, one of the things I was listening to before when you guys were talking about your board meeting about extracurricular activities, if you have any other third-party entity that is not listed with the district or not affiliated with, I would definitely make sure if they're a business that you're getting a certificate of insurance from them to make sure that there's coverage, because otherwise it is on the district, right? So these are just ways to make sure that you're protecting yourself. And we can go through that language and help you through that. It's more dicey in the high school levels I've seen. The grade school is pretty static, right?
So while we don't have district vehicles, if we have a staff member who's authorized to drive a student, would this endorsement cover that particular instance?
It would cover portions of that, yeah, sure. The auto liability portion that's included into your whole program. In the furtherance of your commercial enterprise, which would be the district, that insurance coverage would enact. This is kind of like a little bit more insurance in a situation that no one really wants to blame each other. It's coverage that helps you prevent that lawsuit situation. The amounts are minimum. I mean, just to go see a doctor, it's $570 for the office visit, as I found out today, right? Even with insurance. So when I'm saying $1,000 med pay is not even a ton of money, anyways, in today's medical situation. Yes. So I think it's frivolous at best, the coverage. I think the other ones that you're considering are certainly more meat potatoes for sure.
I'd like to make a motion to add the $150 endorsement. But see if anyone else agrees.
You know, revisions can always be made after the
Okay.
fact too.
Alright.
I'm
Yeah, we
not,
can also, since you
I'm just
approved the
saying.
program as a general, I think as a board, if you made additions in it, since it's our
Yep.
program, you can always just endorse it.
Yeah, admin could do
Yeah.
that, sure,
That's through a conversation.
sure.
I didn't mean to,
Nope,
to
that's
squash
fine.
your
No,
motion.
no, that's
but
fine.
Nobody was responding, and I think there's still some like confusion with
Okay,
it.
okay.
And one last thing I'll say is I view myself, there's a lot of people who just sell insurance, right? I'm sure you know this, right? At our company, we have to know how to utilize it, we have to understand it too. So when you talk about waivers, when you talk about primary non-contributory, which comes up in school districts, when you talk about the language that really helps protect a school district or hinders a school district, it's my priority and my prioritization to make sure that I understand that and I, in layman's terms, tell you guys how that works. So, I mean, kind of a translator between technicalities, I guess, is the way I would see it. So, that's all I can do. So.
Thank you for all the information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And again, I think Courtney would agree, it has been very easy, and we do appreciate that. You're
Yeah.
a school board member and you
Yeah.
understand the
I think it matters.
complexities, yeah.
I think it matters.
And I also want to comment, Nick, on just, being localized and how that helps, right? Because, throughout the year when, I'm in the business office, we know that workers' comp is going to be an incidence, right? Like, this is going to happen, throughout the year. And so how we handle those claims, having someone localized that I can rely on for the assessment fees, and where it doesn't feel like a structure where here's like, call the nurse, go here, go there, and it's like, almost automated in a way where it's like it just goes against the district because it's like, yep, here's step 8 through this, so it does, feel like, with having you as a local resource, I think that's an added, bonus for us.
I think that's a huge resource for specialized, localized districts like the K through 8, right? I think that matters. I really do think that matters too. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Moving on to 10H, the August school board dates. Myself and Danielle are asking if we could change. The current date is August,
It would be the 19th, that's during the fair, right?
yes,
Thank you all.
Good night.
Thanks, Nick.
by August 19th. So we're asking to change it. I had a couple recommendations if anyone,
Is there anything on the calendar that would require it at a certain time as far as leading up to the school year that you would want it earlier in the month or later in the month? Or do we just move it back a day or so?
Yeah, I don't think we'd want it, I believe the 26th might go in-house, so we wouldn't want to move it back a week.
Would August 12th work for everybody?
I can't make August 12th.
No? Okay.
It was-
Any other recommendations? Or we leave it as is and I won't be here. Did you, are you gonna be here?
I am here on the 19th now,
Okay.
but I mean, when does the fair end?
For me,
Yeah, like, yeah.
the 24th.
Okay, so it's that whole week?
Yeah.
Can
you do the 17th? Or is
Mm-mm.
that like
It's the 11th or 13th?
Tuesdays and Thursdays aren't.
How about early and do August 5th?
I guess I'd be looking at to Jorge in
That's,
terms of.
that's only 1 week between 2 board meetings.
Yeah.
No, that's
Well, 2 weeks.
2
3
weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Actually,
Oh,
it is
that's
3.
right, 3 weeks.
It's a long
15th.
month in July.
It sure is.
The 10th or the 11th, would that work for anybody?
10th would work better for me, but if
I
I have
can
to
make
make
either
the
of those
11th
work.
I'll do that.
Or the 13th?
Or the 13th.
What did you said Tuesdays and Thursdays do not work for you?
They're just a little rough.
Okay. So you would prefer the
I would
10th?
prefer the 10th, but if I have to do it Tuesday or Thursday, I'll figure it out.
Would everyone else be available on the 10th?
I can be.
Not? Danielle, you're leaving?
I'm not on the 10th, but there's a world where not all of us could be here. You lead the meeting, so I think that's more mission critical. I mean, so I could do the 13th, I could do the whole week prior to, but if that's too early for people. And I don't know if you're in town or how you feel about the week of the August 3rd in that week.
Me,
Yeah.
my first grandchild is due August 6th in Alabama.
Oh,
So
well,
you
yeah,
guys
you're gonna
just
be,
pick what you want. I don't know where I'm gonna be or when.
yeah.
She could come in July, and she could come late.
Babies don't keep calendars, that's true.
We could
And they
try
don't
the
care.
13th.
Are you sure?
Is it wild to do the 24th or the 25th? I think open house was on Thursday. Isn't it always Thursday night? It's sticking in my
27th.
mind, the 27th.
Yeah, I think it's always been a Thursday, but if they changed it, then
Let me double check that.
The only thing on that is that I wouldn't be available to do the agenda.
We could work on
So
it.
that would all be
Yeah,
you and
We
Jean.
can all work on it. We get done. In August. In August, we would work on the agenda.
I wouldn't be
together.
doing the
If it's
agenda in
later in the
August.
month,
Yeah,
is what you're saying?
yeah,
Hmm.
maybe
If
the
it's later in the
24th.
month?
Yeah, if it's later in the month, I'm
Yeah,
off.
yeah. We can handle that.
I'm on
So-
pig duty.
Is it better, Michelle, with the open house to do it that week?
So I'm sorry,
Otherwise,
when-
if you
when
guys
Ed
want the
looking at
5th.
doing-
What about August 24th or 25th?
During the day, yeah.
That's
Right.
probably would be the day that we would be invited to for that training.
why don't you just go back to the 13th?
I'm thinking the 13th is better.
It's fine.
I can't do the 24th. I don't mean to be
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, 13th it is.
Are you sure that's okay with you? Okay. So I'll make a motion to move the August school board meeting date to August 13th at 4:30.
Hang on, I'm just double checking.
Okay.
The open house, whatever day the 26th is, that's when the open house is.
Yeah, okay,
That's
there's
a
a
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
2 weeks
Wednesday.
later.
Oh, better move it on my calendar then.
Okay. So my motion is to move the August school board meeting date to August 13th at 4:30. Seeking a
second.
second. Nicole seconded. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everybody. 10I was approval of the 2026-2027 preliminary budget.
Okay. Anybody have any last minute statements? Okay. I'll move to approve the 26-27 preliminary budget.
I'll second.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Any nays? Sorry. technical difficulties. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 10J, approval of the budget revisions for 25-26.
This is my first one. What does that mean, the budget revisions for the prior year?
Because usually we have to move stuff from Fund 10
I
to
can't hear
cover.
you, I'm sorry.
Usually we have to move stuff from Fund 10 to cover another balance.
So that's that
'cause
Fund
it
10
has to-
transfer that
yeah,
we keep
there-
talking about. Okay, got it, all right,
Yeah.
Certain ones have to be zeroed out.
got it.
Commonly, it's happened once or twice
Yeah.
during the school year, that's normal.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 budget revisions as we have presented. Sikide second.
I'll second it.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. All right, does anyone have any future agenda items other than the normal ones that go on the July agenda?
Well, and I'll talk to Jean about this, but I'm gonna ask that, I believe by policy, the nurse is supposed to do an update yearly. I'm gonna ask that we put that on the agenda for July.
We've never had that, have we?
Yep.
She spoke to us
Is-
once before.
Yeah.
Is
But I
there
forget
anything
what
with
it
the
was for.
safety, remember the safety last year that had to be checked and double checked? If you do so many intruder alerts and
That's
Drills.
Yep, that's in December.
that's in December, we will review that again?
Yep.
Okay.
We're gonna look at the pay schedule. Both of those will be on there, I think, for July.
Correct.
Yep.
And then the seclusion and restraint is what we'll be on in July.
With that pay schedule, there is, as part of the printout today with the budget,
I did see that.
that last page is a amount of all the hourly employees
Got it.
per year, right? So that's how much we pay out for the salary, for the hourly folks.
Okay.
And then it has some scenarios if we were to increase, across the board, right? All 61 staff that are hourly employees, 50 cents, $1, $2, $3, and look at the budget impact as a whole on that. Notice, one thing important to note with that is that that's just the salary component, right? As you bring that up, there's also FICA, there's also
Right.
all these other things that, have a domino effect to increase with it.
So you do have some deviations on there?
I think it's
Oh, that's the current one, yeah.
Oh, I see,
That's the current one.
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Was there discussion of a workshop in the summer? And if so, we have to discuss dates.
Yes, there was
But
for.
realistically, should we let them breathe the first week of school of September and do it early September reasonably? I don't know.
What was the workshop?
It was for communication, board
was-
communication.
We were gonna look at a few different things. I mean, we're
Yeah.
going into like if we move into the cadence of like mailers twice a year, that's involved in communication, systems with the website, that type of workshop. But realistically,
A lot of the feedback that we got to me when I was interpreted and I sent Michelle an email, it screams communication. We have some gaps in communication that we can improve on, and there's some strategies that we should look at and how to do that.
Well, this workshop would be community, it would be board
Yeah.
communication.
Well, I look at it as kind of a four-pronged, stool.
For sure.
The school board, the district, the school itself, and the parents, right? How do we get that all aligned as efficiently as we possibly can and tell the story that obviously there's, like I said, the feedback that we got is we don't think we're getting a good investment on our students from the community. How do we tell that story that this is how we're investing and these are the results that they're getting? So again, we're not doing a good job there as a school board, as a district, as a entity.
Room for growth.
Yeah, it's growth. And I'm not trying to, beat up anybody, but I just think there's an opportunity for that.
I think realistically doing it like the week prior to the September meeting is gonna be, given that we have to do two pay discussions, July, August. I just think that's I don't know if we'll be able to fit it in, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's July look like?
Everything that she has going on,
Yeah.
that she put for summer months. Remember, she said summer is not
Busy.
long enough. Summer's busy.
If not July.
We can
then-
still keep that on the agenda and put it on July and see what we can,
What date we could come up with?
yeah, I can put it on the July agenda for communication workshop and see what we think of at that time
And when are you putting it?
on
Oh,
the
on
agenda.
the agenda, okay. By the way, you've mentioned several times you don't know if I'm traveling. I've never missed a meeting,
Yeah.
not one.
Well, I didn't want to move it to a time when you
Right.
normally plan for the third week.
I just didn't know if you recognized that.
Yeah,
Not
that's
a
yeah. I
single
don't
meeting
want. I don't want to move it to
of
when you're out
any
of town.
kind.
Any other future
Yeah.
agenda items for
Uh,
July?
If July happens to be short, we had a lot of things to cover today. If July happens to be short, is there a world where we discuss the communication workshop, like roll it right after? Or like, you know what I mean, like roll it into one, depending on the length
The
of
same
the
evening.
July agenda.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I'll say possible, same, okay. Okay. Number 12, convene in closed session. Under the board will convene into closed session to discuss, take action if appropriate, under Wisconsin statute 19.851C, to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee under which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically to discuss administration of employment and performance evaluation and closed session minute approval. I'll make a motion to move into closed session, seeking a second.
I'll second.
And a roll call vote, Tina, aye. Victor?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Danielle?
Hi.
Joanne?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Just have a couple minutes before we right, I will make a motion to move into open session, seeking a second.
I'll second.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Time is now 8:05. And I will make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting, seeking a second.
I'll second.
Right, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.